You're listening to Sip and Grow the podcast, the show where we taste awesome, delicious wines while having unfiltered conversations about our passions, experiences, struggles, entrepreneurship, and life. My name is Nicole DiPasquale, and I'm a wine enthusiast just trying to pursue her passions and dreams while taking you on the journey with me, one episode at a time. My ultimate goal is to not only bring you wine knowledge and value, but also inspire you to enjoy your process and journey in pursuing your passions and dreams. Because guess what? The person you become while enduring the process is more important. So sit back, grab a glass, and let's sip and grow together. Welcome back to another episode of Sip and Grow with me, your host, Nicole DiPasquale. So today, my background looks a little bit different. We're in a different vibe. We're in my hometown, Miami, Florida. I made it back. I survived harvest. And this is my first official episode back in Miami that I'm filming. And I'm excited. And I figured since I ended harvest and we're gonna continue doing the episodes in Miami, why not start off with this specific wine? So I'm gonna introduce today's wine. It's called Beaujolais Nouveau, which it's kind of popular in the wine world. It's a wine, I thought this was the perfect wine to do for my first episode back because once these grapes are harvested, which this wine specifically is made 100% with Gamay grapes, and it's very popular in France and also in Portugal. Today the wind is winding a little bit, so you know, my hair might be flying around a couple of times. But basically this is harvested, the grapes are harvested and then bottled right after fermentation ends, and you're supposed to drink it it's sold in the stores the same year it's harvested, and then it's meant to be like a young wine that you can drink. I think it lasts probably like 2 years max, but they literally come out with the vintage, the year it was harvested obviously, and in the United States, they put this out in the stores by like the third week of November, which is just in time for Thanksgiving. And to be fair, my friend Monica, shout out to Monica, she sent me this on TikTok, and I found out about this wine through a video on TikTok, and I was like, you know what? Why don't we make an episode about it? So let's go ahead and open it up. What was cool about this wine is that I was reading into it, and this specific wine's made with what's called the process called carbonic maceration fermentation, which usually it's like a really popular process. It's either that or, let me make sure I'm saying this correct. Yeah, carbonic maceration process, right? So it's either carbonic maceration or semi-carbonic maceration, which is technically what was used in the vineyard that I worked at. So the difference between the two is that in carbonic maceration, they basically use like a closed vat. That means basically like no oxygen can get in there, and then they add carbon dioxide to it during, like, as it starts fermenting. And usually they put whole clusters, like whole grape clusters. And then in semi-carbonic maceration, you could do clusters of grapes, or you can do also just individual berries. So for me, what I experienced in Sonoma County, where I worked, we would basically destem the grapes through a destemmer, and then the berries would drop into the tanks, right? And the main difference between the two is that the carbonic one is basically sealed, no oxygen gets in, and then they add like external CO2 into it. And then the semi-carbonic, they basically let like the natural CO2 rise from the bottom of the tanks to the top, which ultimately will like eventually that usually happens like really, really fast, and then that's what protects the grapes during the fermentation process. But that's what I experienced in my winemaking experience. We would basically put the berries, we would destem the grapes, put the berries into the tanks, and then kind of let the fermentation start. So when the fermentation starts at the bottom, you know, the whole yeast and malic acid, the malic acid and sugars are working to like start the fermentation process and convert themselves to ethanol basically, and then that kind of releases the CO2 to the top of the tank, which makes this like cloud of CO2 on the top, and that protects the grapes from oxygen coming in. So that, I thought it was cool. This wine specifically is made with the carbonic maceration process, and the reviews I read on it, basically they were saying it kind of tastes like grape juice. But I don't know, we'll see how this goes. Let me use my notebook as a background because I forgot my little white sheet inside. It's so funny because this looks exactly like how the wine looked when it, like, the first fermentation process was done, and then we would transfer we would basically take out the wine from the tanks to transfer it to another tank while we pressed the grapes in the tanks, like the leftover grapes. Because basically, like, that's what we would do. We would literally let the fermentation process happen, which would take, I don't know, between like 7 to 8 days, depending on whatever's happening inside. And this is like if everything runs smoothly, obviously. But basically, once you have, like, once the wine is fermented, you get like a filter. It's like a little cylinder filter thing that we would take out the wine from there. And then when you take out all the wine, you have like leftover berries. And those berries you can still kind of like crush to get pressed wine out of there. And a lot of times people might mix pressed wine with the wine that you take, like the wine that we take out, like filtering it. But where I specifically worked, we would keep those two separate, because you could use pressed wine later on if you need to, but usually like we maintain those two separate. But it was really cool because like some tanks, my winemaker would experiment by putting like the stems back in. So for the most part, all the tanks that we worked with just had the whole berries. So we would destem the grapes, the berries would drop into the tanks, and then we would let the whole fermentation process happen. And then in some tanks, he was like, you know what, let's put some clusters, some stem clusters in there, like basically the stems without the grapes back in, so that it can give it a little bit of flavors. Because from the stems, you get a lot of like the tannins as well. And it could give it, like, the wine a different type of flavor, maybe a little, it might be a bolder wine, but that, I thought that was like cool experiencing it firsthand there. And yeah, let's go ahead and try this wine. So looking at the color, it looks super young, and it almost people are gonna hate me for this, but it literally smells very like sugary, which is not what I like. Hold on. Okay, Nicole, focus. It's very fruity. Let's go ahead and try it. Oh my God. So this is cool because it kind of tastes like like wine that's not done with the second fermentation process. So usually like it still needs to go through like malolactic fermentation. That's exactly what it tastes like, which it's not bad. It's just more on the acidic side. So it's very tardy, almost like herbaceous I like it. I mean, I think it's very different than like tasting. It's not, to me, it's not a finished wine, but it's not bad. I think it's pretty cool if you kind of want to experience a wine that was just like fermented that same year, and you want to kind of taste how a wine would taste super young and fresh right after harvest. I would say go for it. A lot of people online were saying like this is a good wine to drink in Thanksgiving. I mean, it is very easy drinking, but for me, like tasting it, yeah, tasting it, I almost feel like it's still, since it didn't really go through like that second fermentation, it's like more on the acidic side of things. So it almost tastes like closer to fruit juice with a bunch of tardiness to it. But it's not bad. It's not bad at all. If you want to go for something different, try it out. It was, I think, $15 at the supermarket. Yeah, I think it was like 15 or 16. I don't know, something around there. But I mean, is it something that I personally would be like, oh my God, let's have this wine? I've been dying to have this wine. Probably not. But is it something cool to kind of like cheers the end of harvest? Yeah. I wouldn't necessarily want to drink this wine, but I would rate it a 7 out of 10 based off of the information I know about the wine. Knowing that it's super young, it was harvested in 2023, then bottled, then sold literally a month. I think it finished fermenting at the end of September is what I believe. This producer, so there's different producers that do this wine. This one specifically is French, and they usually sell this every year, like that year's vintage, the third week of November in the United States. So if it's something that you want to try out, there's still a bunch at the supermarket. I literally got this the first week of December, I think is when I bought it. So yeah, give it a try. It's not that expensive. It's definitely different, but like I said, would I necessarily buy this and be like, oh, let's go ahead and drink a Beaujolais Nouveau? No, probably not. But am I going to make it a tradition to do it every single year when harvest ends worldwide? I think so. I think that's like the story behind it is what makes it super cool. And like I said, it's very easy to drink. So if you just want like an easygoing wine that is more on the bitter tardiness, herbaceous side of things, try it out. And again, it's not that expensive. Get it at your local grocery store. I bought mine at Publix. So yeah. Anyways, try this wine out. Let me know what you guys think, and I will see you on the next episode.